Good morning. My name is Marilyn Hagerty, and I am the Director of the Academic Advisement and Mentoring Center. Thank you for coming this morning to the Academic Policies and Procedures Information Session. You should have both a handout packet and also a survey that we have that checks to see what people's understanding is at this point for the different policies that we're going to be covering. If you fill that out and give that to someone at the table when you leave. Okay? Today, the handouts are organized in a particular way, but because of scheduling, we may be hopping around in the handouts. So just look, the first person that we're having come up here will be Debbie Gilchrist, and she will be followed by Cindy Blanco. Thank you.
Good morning. My role here today is to talk to you a little bit about the differences between the Office of Admissions and the Office of the Registrar. Over the last couple of years, we've had a few changes at the university, just a few, and one of them was the dividing of those two offices. And often what happens is I think we send our students to the wrong office just because we're not really sure what the difference is. So just to make it very easy, the Office of Admissions handles all new students coming into the university, and we process any of the documents needed to make the admission decision. So an application for admission, a transcript evaluation that's needed in order to determine the GPA to make sure they meet our admission requirements. We also determine residency of the student. So all of those documents would come to our office, and once the student's been admitted, then they kind of fall between us and the registrar's office, because really until the student is enrolled, that's when they'll start going to the registrar's office for their grades, to apply for graduation, to get a transcript from UTPA, to check on their VA benefits, to process those documents. They can register there, they can add and drop classes there. And what we've been finding is sometimes students are sent to the admissions office in order to get added to a class, because the professor who says, go ahead and you can get into my class, go to the admissions office, has sent them to the wrong office. So I just wanted to make sure that we knew the difference between the two offices. There's a sheet in your handout. It looks like this. It has two columns. It says admissions on one side and registrars on the other. And basically, it just summarizes what each office does. And pretty much it's everything that I've just told you. Now, we do handle the applications for students who already have a degree but are not in the master's program. We call those post-baccalaureate students. And we will go ahead and process their paperwork, and also second degree students. Okay? Now, if a student tells you that they are pursuing a second degree, there is some additional paperwork they need to complete for us, because then we do have to go in and evaluate their transcript form, especially if they didn't graduate from UTPA. Okay? I listed some phone numbers at the bottom of the page. And again, just to differentiate between us and some other offices on campus, we are the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. We're located at the front of campus. Students can enter through the visitor center, and the folks there at the front desk at the visitor center should be able to help students and answer all their questions. They usually aren't sent to our area unless they have documents to turn in that need to be processed, because we handle the processing in that area. Okay? Now, graduate admissions is in a different location. It's in the administration building on the first floor, and that's an entirely different operation. And the application process is different, and there's also an application fee for those students. And the Office of International Admissions is located in the Learning Assistance Center. And the difference between sending a student to our office or their office is if the student is here on a visa, then they do need to go to the International Admissions Office. If a student needs to change their address once they're enrolled, or change their name, or change their phone number, then they do need to go to the registrar's office. Okay? If you turn the page, I'd also like to draw your attention to a sheet that has our admission requirements on there. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, because they are changing for this fall semester. And whereas in the past couple of years, when the ACT or SAT requirement has been increased, it's been pretty straightforward. It's either a 17 and an 810 or a 16 and the equivalent for the SAT. But this year we have a little bit different. Students that are coming in for the fall 2009 semester will be required to have an ACT of 17 or an SAT of 18 to be admitted regular admission. They can have an ACT of 16 or an SAT of 760 and rank in the top 33% of their class to be regularly admitted, or they can have an ACT of 15, SAT of 710, but they must rank in the top 25% of their class. So there's a little bit more opportunities there for some of our students depending on their class rank. And that really was based on a study of our students who tend to do well here at UTPA, and test score was not the sole indicator. Ranking class played a role in that, so that's how this was formulated. I did put the admission deadlines on there, and although it does say our priority deadlines was February 2nd, I did list some late admission deadlines there for you. And except for the fall 2009, those are a week before the first day of class, but for fall, we have made the deadline 2 weeks prior to the beginning of class. So that way we can process documents and make sure students get in for new student orientation. And if there are some students who were denied admission and they want to appeal, that gives us a little bit of extra time to work on those appeals. There's phone numbers on all the sheets here. If you need anything, please feel free to call us or send us an email. And if you have any questions, I'll answer them at this time. No? Okay. Thank you for your time.
I have a number of questions. How's it looking for the fall? Are the numbers where we want them to be at this point in the year?
For entering freshman students, I will tell you that our application numbers are up a lot. But that could be because it's very easy to apply now. Every student in the state of Texas just goes to one website and they can apply to several different schools. In addition to that, we don't have an application fee for undergraduate students. Now, we're up like 126% in admits, but that may just be because now that we're a year into our new system, we're a lot more efficient in using the technology. But we have admitted over 2,700 entering freshmen already. Transfer students are a little bit different because they tend to wait until very close to the beginning of a semester to apply and get their documents in. So that's kind of hard to gauge. We're up right now, but again, it could be because we use the technology better, and we are getting the word out to transfer students because we've opened a transfer center across the street from STC. So now they can just walk across the street and apply, and we can ask them to get their transcripts sent in and things like that. So we're hoping that speeds that up a little bit also. But for right now, it's looking okay.
Let's make sure we have a job.
Okay, if you turn in your packets towards the back, there's a handout that's entitled Bachelor's Degree Requirements, and Cindy Blanco will be covering that and also the degree evaluation that's provided on self-service for Banner.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Blanco, as Marilyn said. I work at the Office of the Registrar. I'm an assistant registrar that oversees graduations, certifies the degrees, and of course, I'm in the process of building all the degree audits. We're now calling them degree evaluations in the new Banner self-service system. And basically what I've done is on the sheet that's in front of you, I made a list of all the areas and requirements that we look for before certifying a degree for an undergraduate student. And of course, the list is made up of the student will have to meet the requirements for the degree, the minimum GPA requirements. If the major has a different requirement than the overall GPA, that is also verified. We look to make sure that the student has the advanced hour requirements. Of course, all undergraduate degrees require a minimum of 51 advanced hours. There are provisions sometimes if the student is short an hour or two where waivers can be submitted, and upon approval of the Senior Vice Provost for Undergraduate Studies, we may waive those pending requirements. We also look for CLEP and advanced placement credit that applies to the degree. We look for residency, and basically what that means is in order for UTPA to award a degree to a student, 25% of the degree program must be completed at UTPA. And basically what that means is for our transfer students, say that the degree requires a minimum of 124 hours, then 25% of that must be completed at the university. And this cannot be AP, cannot be CLEP credit. They have to be actual courses taken at the university. Another criteria that we look for is the reusing of a course. Courses can be reused from your core requirement to your major or the core requirement to your minor, but you cannot double dip and use one course to satisfy a major and minor requirement. And that's something that's very crucial. All catalogs have a 7-year limit. So right now we have 3 active catalogs. The one that's going to expire August of 2011 is the 2002-2004 catalog. And of course after that we have 2 more newer catalogs. In certifying degrees, we also look for substitutions and waivers. We do have students that deviate from the actual degree program. And again, in those cases, right now we have paperwork that needs to be initiated by the student and faculty advisor. It's routed to the department chair as well as the dean. And there's some instances where Dr. Ana Maria Rodriguez will also have to approve or deny these requests. When we receive them at the office of the registrar, we will process them, post them to the student records, and what we'll also do is send the student a copy of the form so that they are aware whether the substitution was approved or denied. One of the other criteria that we look for is students cannot use graduate courses to satisfy an undergraduate degree requirement. And I know sometimes students in their last semester will take a class or 2 in a master's program, but again, those cannot be used to satisfy the bachelor's degree. The other criteria that we have is the additional degree requirements, and this is for students that already have a bachelor's degree that are interested in coming back for another undergraduate degree. In order for UTPA to award a second degree, students must take a minimum of 30 hours at the university. And again, this, we cannot use courses that were initially used for the first degree. Sometimes we have students that will minor in something and want to come back and get a bachelor's degree in the minor. Students have to be made aware as well as the advisor that they must complete a minimum of 30 new hours towards the second degree. Do you have any questions? Okay, what we're going to go ahead and do is, this is the new degree evaluation, which is the new degree audit system that we have under self-service. Right now, the only ones that have access to it are faculty, advisors, and the support staff. We are in the process of releasing this to the students fairly quickly, and the intent is to have it out before advisement begins with the departments for the summer and the fall semester. And basically what you do, are you familiar of getting into self-service? Okay, what you would do is you would go into Assist and get into tab in the fall of 2008 and enter your username and your ID. You click on the tab that says Faculty and Advisors, and what you do is you click on Student Information menu, you click on ID Selection, and this is going to default to your most recent term, so everything that's going to be in here is up to the most current term. You enter an ID number, and of course you have the option of either doing the ID or search by name. The only thing that if it is a very common name, you are going to get a list of all the students with that particular name. You click on Submit, and it'll show you the name of the student that you're querying. You click Submit, and now this menu here is going to apply only to the student that you've actually queried. So what we do here is we click on Degree Evaluation, and it'll tell you the program that the student is currently following. If the catalog term says fall of 2008, that's defaulted to the 120-hour degree plans. So any student that you're advising or record that you're reviewing, if you leave it that way, when you generate the evaluation, you must select the program. If you don't click on that little circle on the top, that one, if you don't click on that circle, it's not going to generate a request for you. So you need to make sure that you do select the program. You generate your request, and it's going to give you a list of options. The first option is your general requirements, and this is just a summary of the components that make up the degree plan. Submit. And it'll start with the program itself, the major, the department it belongs to, and then it'll list the hours that are required for the program. It's going to give you different areas, and the first one that we created, of course, is the one that will reflect the 51 advanced hours, again, since it's a requirement for all the degrees. We've done an area called core, and that's for all the core courses that are required. There, scroll back up. Oops, down where it says met. In the core area where it says met, I just want to highlight where it says met. What it'll do is if the student has met the requirements for this particular area, that comment right there, if it's not met, it'll say not met. But if it's met, it'll, as you can see, say met. Scroll down. And then it'll start with the courses that make up the major. In this case, it's accounting, so they have to have core, foundation, and then the major courses. And each area is broken down by the courses that apply to it. Each area will give you a GPA for that particular area. And then if you go to display options where it says back to display, what you can do is if a student is pending courses, you can go into the detail requirements, you submit that request, and this is going to be a very specific area where it's going to tell you the courses that apply to each component. So if a student is missing, go down. Yeah. If a student is missing something in the major, it'll highlight in blue what's pending, and courses that have been completed, it'll turn them into black. You went ahead. You went a little too far. It'll turn them to black, and it'll say at the very beginning, it says yes. That means that the student has met that requirement. And again, if you click on the courses that are in blue, it's going to throw you into the catalog, and it'll give you a brief description of what that course is. Go down. If you go back to the display options, the last option here for additional information, this will list all the courses that are in progress, courses that have not been used in the degree program, and courses that are rejected. Usually the rejected courses are the ones that were failed and were retaken, and they're tagged as repeats. The courses that are not used are also, again, courses that don't apply to the degree plan, aren't course specific. Sometimes transfer work will say general credit 1,000 or whatever. All those courses will be listed in this particular area. It's going to list, if the student took developmental courses, it'll list all of those courses as well. So anything that doesn't apply to the program itself, you'll find here. And this is useful in case you want to substitute a course for a student and you want to know what the student has that has not been used. This is an area where you can find that. And again, right now it's only available for faculty and advisors. We are contacting departments, so our faculty department chairs can review it to make sure that we've created these accurately. And then that way, once they're released to the students will be able to follow these as accurately as possible. Any questions? One last thing, there is a what if button on the bottom. And basically what this does is if the student is either in a prior catalog, fall 2007, that is tied to the older degree plans that require 124 hours or more, and that's where you will find that. Or if a student is switching majors from biology to business or any other field, you can select what the new major is going to be, and you can generate the request, and it'll give you a listing of the courses that now apply and are required for the new degree program. And basically that's it. Again, I am in the office of the registrar. My telephone number and my email address are in the green sheet. My name is Cindy Blanco. Once you start working with it, if you find any discrepancies or anything that you feel might be crucial to any other advisor or to the student, call me, email me, let me know, and we'll go ahead and modify this data so that we can offer the students a very accurate degree program. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next we'll start to look at particular academic policies, and the first one we'd like to have you look at is for TSI requirements. And Lisa Blankenship from the Learning Assistance Center TSI advising area will be talking about that. That's towards the beginning of your packet. Thank you.
Good morning. Is it still morning? I'm Lisa Blankenship. I'm director of the Small Advisement Center, which advises all TSI-affected students and also counseling and psychological services. And do you even know what TSI is? TSI is the Texas Success Initiative. It's a state requirement that we have to assess students in advance of enrolling them in college-level courses in reading, math, and writing. And then it also requires that they're advised appropriately based on those assessments. So if you'll turn to the page that looks like this, it's kind of a table, and it gives you the exemptions. Some students can be exempt from taking a TSI assessment based on TAC scores or ACT or SAT scores. If they are exempt, it doesn't apply in your college, but education majors will always have to test. They have to satisfy that requirement in order to be certified to teach. Other students that are not planning to go into education, if they're exempt, they do not have to test unless they're trying to get into a class that has the department has a higher cut score than the state, and that is math and then also writing. So if a student is exempt based on their TAC scores in math, they still have to show that they're proficient at the college level to enroll in college algebra. And that can be an ACT score of 20, an SAT score of 480, or what else? I guess that's it. Or taking the developmental coursework. When Cindy was talking about the developmental coursework that does not apply towards the degree, if a student tests into developmental coursework, we are mandated by law to put them in developmental coursework. And they cannot go into the college level until they clear TSI in that area, either by retesting or by taking the class and passing it essentially. Then they're allowed to go into the college level coursework. And we have a lot of students who test into developmental coursework, particularly in the math area. And that would be me if I was a student right now. So, this placement score, you probably, advising at the junior and senior level, you will not have to deal with this, because all TSI-affected students are advised in my center regardless of number of hours. The majority of our TSI-affected students obviously are freshmen. A lot of them are affected only in math, and they take one course and they clear, and then they go on about their business. Some of them are affected in all three areas, and it can take them a little while to clear TSI. But we have very few students, we do have a few, but we have very few that are actually juniors or seniors who have not yet cleared TSI. But there are a few like that. And they're not allowed to enroll in upper division coursework until they've cleared all three areas. So they have the hours to be a junior, but they can't really enroll in the college level, or in the upper division coursework. Do you have any questions? Yes?
It doesn't count toward degree plan.
It does not count towards a degree plan. It is a non-credit course.
So on the transcript, it'll say what?
It'll say there's 4 courses, English 1310, English 1320, Math 1300, and Math 1334. And now the grade will start with an R for developmental, for like reading, A, or I'm sorry, remedial A if they are taking one of the courses where they can get an A, B, or C. Any other questions? My contact information is also on the green sheet. If you have any questions, I'll just get a plug in. I also supervise counseling and psychological services. If you have a student of concern, give me a call.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Next, we will be looking at the University 1301 enrollment requirements. And to talk about that are Belinda Reyes and Thelma Leal from the Office of Undergraduate Studies.
Good morning. Like Marilyn said, my name is Belinda, and I am the staff coordinator for the UNIB 1301 class, Learning Framework. And for those of you who don't know yet what the Learning Framework class is, this class was implemented or started back in fall of 2004. This class was designed to help students improve the learning process and to help them succeed in college. The class focuses on how adult students learn, why they learn the way they do, the way they think, the way they make judgments, and it helps them adapt or apply different methods of learning into their college coursework. And the course also teaches them the most recent research findings in the psychology of learning, motivation, and cognition. Some of the topics that are covered in the class are academic motivation, memory and learning, thinking and learning, patterns of human development. And those are some of the topics that are covered in the class. When this class started in fall of 2004, this class was mandated. It was a graduation requirement. It was required of all entering freshmen who came in with less than 30 semester credit hours. That has changed. This past fall 08, a new criteria was set. And now students entering freshmen or transfer students who come in with an ACT composite score of 18 or below are automatically flagged to take the course. No questions asked. They must enroll in the course. Hopefully we try to get them in within their first semester here at the university. Those entering freshmen who come in with a 19 or higher ACT composite score and graduated at the top 25% of their class do not have to take the course within their first term here. They are placed on what we call a provisional status, and which that means that again, they don't have to take the class within their first semester, but their academic performance will be evaluated at the end of that term. And at the end of the term, they must earn 12 hours or more and have a 2.5 or higher GPA just within that term. Okay? And if they meet that requirement, then they are placed on a continuous provisional status, which means they can move on in the spring without having to take the UNIV class. At the end of the second term, they are evaluated once again. They must have a 2.5 or higher GPA and have a cumulative earned hours of 24 within their fall and spring term, or first and second term. Okay? If they meet that, then they don't have to take the course ever. Okay? For those students who are placed on a provisional status within their first term, and they don't meet the first evaluation, they fall below the 2.5 GPA, or they didn't earn the 12 hours that they were supposed to earn, then they must take the course within their second term. Does that make sense? Okay. So we have some students who are now going through that, who were placed on a continuous provisional status for the spring semester. So they didn't have to take the class in the spring, but we do evaluate them again at the end of the term. Any questions so far? Okay. think this is Thelma Leal. She's our research analyst for undergraduate studies, and she does all our data collection and tracking of students in the UNIV class.
How about the holds?
Those students who don't meet the first evaluation after their first term, a hold is placed on their record. So when you're advising students and you see on there that on their record that there is a UNIV 1301 hold, please refer them to my office, and my contact information is on that green sheet of your packet. You can. I will be one of the persons who can remove the hold, and I first speak to the student to make sure that he or she understands that they must enroll in the class. And there's other people who have access to remove the hold within our office, and one of them is Marilyn Haggerty, and she's the director of the AIM Center, and her contact information is also on there. And the other person is Enedelia Kidd, and she's the assistant director of the AIM Center. But if you call the AIM Center, I'm sure they can refer you to her. And Thelma Leal. And I don't know if your contact information is on this.
But undergraduate stuff.
But she's with the undergraduate studies office. If you
Last resort.
Mm-hmm.
Things get a little complicated during registration. So.
Can you talk just a little bit of what you track as the success, how University 1301 impacts student success?
I'm currently working on a PowerPoint because we have some visitors from UT Permian Basin, and they want to look at our course. They actually have a similar course that they offer, but right now we did Follow 5 was actually, we began Follow 4, but in Follow 5 is when we really got everything going. The first year was more of a developmental, and the Follow 5 cohort, we basically demonstrated that if the student, especially that first term, if they took UNIV along with any of their other courses, they performed much better and their retention rate was much higher if they took it. And it just so happens it was actually further validated this past year. The QEP, which is the Quality Enhancement Program, and they're using in the Math 1300 and Math 1334, they had already seen that we had shown significant improvement. The students actually showed significant improvement if they took UNIV along with those courses that semester. They went ahead and followed that, and sure enough, they've also further validated that it was in fact true. For the Math 1300 students, the odds of them passing Math 1300 were 11 times higher if they passed UNIV also in that same term. So we actually got outside validation for what we had already presented. So right now it's working really well, and I've actually repeated the results with the Follow 7 group, and it's showing exactly the same results. And we're doing really well. Now this year it's a little different since it isn't mandatory, so the Follow 8 group is a little bit different. Before, we'd usually in the first year about maybe 90% of the entering freshmen would take the course. This year, because the criterion is a little bit different, we're going to have a decrease of about 10%. So instead of serving 90% of the entering freshman cohort, we'll more than likely get about 78, 80% tops. But I'm still tracking those students, and sure enough, even those that didn't have to take the course the first semester, a third of those students did not perform well their first term. And the primary reason was they fell below the 2.5 GPA for the first term. So right now, I'm getting everything ready for the second evaluation, which will occur at the end of spring.
With the success, why was the requirement dropped for only?
Well, the thing is, last year we had all these policy changes regarding the 120-hour degree plan, and at the time it was supposed to be included in the degree plan, but there was a lot of uproar among several departments, and especially some of the degree programs where they really were going to have to cut a lot of hours, so they didn't want the UNIV to be part of their degree plan. But it is right now. It's a part of a retention and graduation initiative, and it'll be included as part of a degree elective for those students that have to take it. So they will count, and it counts for credit. It is not a non-credit course. There's still a lot of misconceptions running around, even though this is our 5th year that we've had this. It is a 4-credit course, And it's 3 credit hours. It's not comparable to the one offered at STC. STC is a 1 credit, and it's more study skills, and it's offered to the TSI affected students. And I think right now in the state of Texas, it's Texas State is really the only one that offers a 3 credit. And actually the UT Permian Basin people that are coming in this Friday, which we'll be presenting, they have a 1 credit for the most part, study skills, and then they offer a 2-3 credit one, which is an honors for freshman students and an honors also for sophomores. And that's the one they want to compare with ours and to see, because we have shown that it does also affect retention.
So we included it in the electives.
Yes, it would be included as a degree elective, and that's the way it's actually coded in Banner, as a degree elective. It's not part of the core. It never was part of the core, even before that. So, and we do have exceptions, and we do have, we will give exceptions to some students. But this whole 30 hours, that's another misconception that we have, that a lot of people are thinking if they wait out the first semester, because really with our follow 8 cohort, 68% were required to take it, didn't meet the ACT of 19, they were 18 or lower, and we were only able to fit like 52% of those. So we still had a lot of students that had to carry over to the spring. And there's some misconception, they think the earned hours they make in the fall will count toward the 30 hours, and that's not true. The 30 hours have to be before they start here at Pan Am. So there's still a lot of little, but Belinda's, we've come across so many different scenarios, and there's also exceptions, and a lot of times we'll look at the students individually and look at their case. In case they always have that, the option to appeal and to substitute, especially if they transferred something else that might be comparable. So are there any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. This is yours.
Thank you, Belinda and Thelma. Now, I'd like to go over what we call our academic policies and procedures chart. You should have that in your packet. And there's also a sheet right behind that I'll be referring to it, which has the SixCourse drop limit questions. In these areas, the first rule that the Texas legislature had made was a 3-peat rule. And this rule was created in the fall of 2005. And for this rule, any student who takes the same course for a 3rd time at the same institution, so this is institutionally based. So if the student takes Math 1340, the 3rd time they take it, they will be charged an extra $100 per credit. Okay? So Math 1340 is a 3-credit course, so for that course, they would be charged an extra $300 for that particular course. Now, if they would take Math 1340 here for twice, and then they went to STC and took it 2 times, they wouldn't be charged at STC for the 3rd time they took it because it's at a different institution. So that particular rule is institutionally based. So it goes from institution to institution. Something that's important to look at and to note is that if a student took a class before fall of 2002, that is not included in the 3-peat rule. Okay? So they might have taken Math 1340 once before fall of 2002. After that point, they get to start over. Okay? The second area, the SixCourse drop rule, if you turn back to that sheet that has the drop limit questions, there's some key points I think it's important for us to realize for the SixCourse drop rule. For this, it only applies to students who started to attend a college or state university in the state of Texas starting fall of 2007 and later. So if a student began attending college before that time, they do not need to worry about the SixCourse drop rule. Basically, for this rule, it has to deal with any courses that students take at colleges, community colleges, state universities in the state of Texas. Okay? So any courses that they take, the state says that an institution cannot allow students to drop more than 6 courses. So it's statewide, though. It's not just institutionally based. And for that, the courses that are not calculated into that are developmental courses, technical courses, and concurrent enrollment courses. So those courses that students take while they're in high school will not count towards the SixCourse drop rule. Okay? Also, basically what happens with this, there are many exceptions, and you'll find on the sheet in the packet, those exceptions are listed. There are items like a severe illness, the student has to take care of a sick relative. If they have a death of a person who's significant to them in their family, they go on active military duty. They have a change of work schedule, or if there's some other extenuating circumstance. So this is important to give students that kind of information so that they know if something catastrophic happens in their life, they have an option to show that this falls under the exceptions rule. And with that, a key thing to inform students about is to keep their documentation. And as soon as something like this happens, to take that documentation to the office of the registrar. Because otherwise what tends to happen, students don't do it right away, and then when they get to the sixth drop, they say, oh, but back 2 years earlier when I took these courses and I had to drop them, this is what happened. And many times they don't have the doctor's excuse or the documentation at that point. So if you have a student who does run into a situation where they need to drop a couple courses, tell them to make sure they have the documentation and take that to the registrar's office. If a student withdraws completely from the university, those courses will not count towards the SixCourse drop rule. Okay? So if they completely withdraw, the courses will not count. Also, if they, sometimes we have students that drop a couple courses, then they'll drop another course, and then they'll drop the final course right before the drop deadline, which is April 10th this term. And when they drop that last course, then everything is changed to a withdrawal. Okay, and so none of those courses will count. What happens, sometimes students want to keep that one course. If they keep the one course on their schedule, then all those other courses that they drop will go to the SixCourse drop rule. So that's where documentation is important, that if they have a valid reason why they're dropping their courses, they need to get that documented in the office of the registrar. Okay, that's a little bit of a complicated rule. Are there any questions on that one before I go?
Is this published anywhere?
It's in the registrar's website. You can go there and look at the rules for that. It's actually on your chart. I've noted where in the Texas Legislative and the Coordinating Board rules this is, and so you can look that up on the Coordinating Board website also. Okay? Also, you'll see on your chart the enrollment cap and excess hours, and that'll be covered in the next presentation. Also, Cindy Blanco talked about the 7-year catalog limit, so we've listed on the bottom of this chart the actual catalogs that are in effect right now and when the end date, the termination date, is for each of those catalogs. On the back of the chart, other things just to be aware of if you aren't, there is a 51 advanced hour requirement for graduation, so students are required to take at least 51 credits of advanced coursework. They are required also to have at least a 2.0 on the core. Okay? Different departments do require a higher core grade point average, but the minimum is a 2.0. If a student is transferring in from another institution, we are required by law to accept at least 66 credits, but individual departments, if they want to accept more than 66 credits, they can do that with approval by the dean and the department chair. Many times a big question that comes up with transfer students is if they obtain an associate degree of science or associate degree of arts, and thus also they may have completed the core in another institution in the state of Texas, like at STC or any of the UT system. In those situations, if a student completes the core requirements in another institution, another state institution, we are required by law to accept that they are core complete. So even though the coursework that they take does not match up to our coursework, we still have to accept that they have completed the core. The exceptions come up when they are required to take a course as a prerequisite for another course. And if they did not take that course as a core requirement, they may be required to take that as a prerequisite. Or if there is a requirement for a program for a particular coursework, in order to be admitted into, let's say for nursing, they're required to take anatomy and physiology. If they did not take that in the previous institution, the department can require that they take that particular course. Okay? Core completion is a big question that comes up a lot. Are there any questions on that? No? Okay. Finally, the withdrawal date, yes?
One question, what if they only transfer if their course 48 hours or 38 hours versus 20?
If a student has a core in another institution that is less than ours, they still need to complete the total number of credits for graduation. So let's say our current core, right now the new core requirement is 43 credits. If a student graduated and if they completed the core of 38 credits, so they had 5 credits less, they would still need to make up those credits. But they can take those credits in different areas depending on what the department requires. Okay, so if it's less, they will need to make up those credits in order to graduate with the 120 credits that's required. Okay, does that answer? Yes.
I have one question. So if a student has an associate degree from like South Texas College,
Mhm.
then that information will show in the degree evaluation and uses the plan.
What is happening right now, the Office of the Registrar is working on adding 2 things to the degree evaluation and transcripts. That is, right now it does not show if a student has an associate degree. Okay, they're working on getting that to show up on the transcript and on the degree evaluation. So, and you also have to be careful when you're working with associate degrees, there's a difference between an associate of applied science or associate of applied arts. Those are more technical degrees. But if it is an associate of art or associate of science, those are academic degrees. And so the core, they have to meet the core in order to complete those. So that will be going up on the degree evaluation in the near future. They're trying to work on that so that will be displayed. And they're using like a dummy course to be able to put that onto the degree evaluation. The other thing that they're working on is for the SixCourse drop rule, they're putting that onto the student transcripts so that you'll be able to tell at the bottom of the student transcripts how many courses they have dropped that go towards the SixCourse drop rule. And the student will be receiving a letter. A letter will be sent to the student to indicate that they've reached their limit. So that will be a notification that will be sent to the student. Okay, anything else with that? The other thing that they're doing too is putting a flag for core completion at another institution. They're developing that too. So they're trying to get that done before mandatory advisement happens this time.
So what you are saying is that right now we do not know whether the student meets the core requirements if we look at the evaluation. And right now like we are working on the degree audits for students.
Mm-hmm.
So when I check the degree audit, I see that students do not satisfy all of the core requirements. And if they have an associate degree, so I should contact
If you have questions regarding core completion, it'd be good to contact the Office of the Registrar, and Cindy Blanco could help you with that, or one of the people who certify graduation, because they'll certify the graduation requirements, and core requirements is one of the requirements that goes towards that. Okay? Yes.
On that, because currently we're having a lot of students, especially like with the UNIV, where they're coming in and they say they have an associate's degree, as they're finishing their last 2 years of high school, they're also getting credit at STC. And initially it was at Stark County, now it's over here in Downey County. A lot of the high schools are participating in that. So that associate's degree, if it's in applied sciences, then you don't, I mean, the core doesn't count.
Okay, the question has been asked. Many students are taking classes while they're going to high school. They're completing associate degrees in like STC or other community colleges or junior colleges. That's why it's very important to look at what the associate degree is. If it's an applied science or applied arts degree, they are not required to complete the academic core that is required to go on for a bachelor's degree. It's only if it's straight academic, the Associate of Arts or the Associate of Science degree, that the core will be met.
Do you know what it is for the STC students right now? Do you know if it's applied science?
No, that applies to STC. If it's applied science or applied arts, they do not have to meet the core. I think right now they have a 45-hour core, and they do not. It doesn't include all of the academic coursework that's that's needed in order to complete the core. Now, there will be some students who will, even though they're getting applied science, they go on and take other courses to complete the core. So the key thing is, if it will say core complete, and that's what the Office of the Registrar is trying to get a flag to put in the core completion section. Okay? Good questions, though. Any other questions with that?
The legislation passed this in order to get students through the system, is that correct?
Well, basically, that's what there's some consistency among all colleges and universities around the state, so that we're required to have that core approved by the coordinating board, and so is every other college and university, Texas college and university. So they said that we have to accept the core from each other's because they're all meeting the same requirements. Okay? Okay. Finally, just to make a note that the final drop withdrawal date is listed in your chart, to make sure that you know that, and then also the grading policy changes, that if a student drops a course, that course is not recorded as a drop pass or a drop fail. It's only recorded as a DR, that they're dropping the registration from that course. Okay? So for this term, for the spring, it is April 10th is the last day that students can drop. Okay? If, just for you as faculty in grading your class rolls, if a student has dropped the course, it will come up as a DR. Okay? If that has not been dropped, they will need to receive a grade. Okay? Okay. Any other questions for that?
So it doesn't matter which line we sign on the form,
For the drop,
it's going to be a DR.
it'll be a DR.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next area that we will be covering is the enrollment cap excess hours fee, and that will be done by Marta Lopez, and she'll also be talking about the early warning system.
Okay. Hello, my name is Marta Lopez. I'm the director for the University Retention Advisement Program, and I'm going to be going over two topics. The first one is the enrollment cap. And the enrollment cap is a rule that was established by the coordinating board to encourage undergraduate students to complete their degree programs in a timely manner. And if they don't fit or do not complete their programs within the identified timeline, then the institution may charge additional fees to that particular student. So what this states, the way it's set up is any student who began or has college credit courses prior to the fall of 1999, there is no cap. For students that started in the fall of 1999 through summer of 2006, there is a 45-hour cap. For students starting fall 2006 to the present, there is a 30-hour cap. What that means is if the program they are studying has 120 hours and they started, say, fall 2002, they can go 45 hours above that. Or if they started fall 2006, they only have 30 hours, so it would be a total of 150 hours in that case. Now, this law has been set up only for undergraduate students. Any graduate students or special students, which are those that already have a degree and are coming back to take undergraduate courses preparing for a master's program, or will not be affected by this policy. That's fine. The next one. The fees at this time, beginning this fall semester, is $125 per semester credit hour, and this would be above and beyond tuition and fees. So it can be a significant amount of money that does impact a lot of our students. There are some exceptions to the rules and hours that we will be able to deduct from it. And that includes any credit hours earned 10 or more years before the date a student enrolled under a Texas Fresh Start program, or hours earned by a student before receiving the bachelor's degree. So if they've already earned the degree, anything in addition to that would not affect the students. Any hours earned via credit by exam or AP or any similar method will not affect the cap or that 45-hour area that they can work with. Other exceptions include any hours for remedial or developmental courses, technical courses, or workforce education courses, or hours earned at a private institution or an out-of-state institution. So if they have any of those hours, we can subtract that from their actual transcripts or degree evaluations. One thing that we do have to keep in mind is any student who has not officially declared a major, we will assume that their degree program is a maximum of 120 hours. So it's important for the students to declare a major as soon as possible so they can be working towards that particular program. Transient students, which are students that might be coming for just one term to the institution, will also be considered to have a program that has a maximum of 120 hours. The ones that do affect the students is any course that has been repeated, any course that has been dropped after the census date, which is a 12th class day, or any courses that have been withdrawn. Those courses will affect the enrollment cap. So as if a student has taken a biology course and got a C and says, I want to take it again so I can get that A and pick up my GPA, that first time that they took it do affect the students regarding those 45 hours. So that's part of the 45 hours. A lot of the things that we are noticing right now is students that might be, say, pre-med or engineering, and they have that urge, they want to take an art class because it's a stress reliever for them. They want to take a ceramics course, or they want to take something that's not listed on their degree plan. All those courses will affect them. So that is also part of the plan. So if they are planning to take electives, that has to be considered in the time, in the amount of hours that they need to take. How do we find out what students are affected? Basically, the coordinating board maintains a record or a database indicating the number of hours an eligible undergraduate student has accumulated towards the limit. They obtain this information from the CBM-1 reports and CBM-4 reports that have to be submitted by any public institution in the state of Texas to the coordinating board. So if, for example, I'm a student and I went to STC and then I went to UT Austin and then I came to Pan Am, the only place where it has the combined total hours would be at the coordinating board. So once a year, or after the CBM report is submitted, twice a year in the fall and the spring, the coordinating board will send a report to the institution identifying the students that are close to meeting this particular categories. One of the things that we have noticed, we started working with this population in the fall 06-07 academic year. And at that time, we had 404 students identified. As of this year, this semester, it has gone up to 1,293 students. This number has actually grown by about 175 just from last year to this year. And we have them identified in 3 categories. The ones that are listed here are the students that are within 30 hours of meeting the cap. The 2s have already exceeded the cap, so they're already being charged the additional fee. And the 3s are the ones that will meet that figure or meet the numbers at the end of the semester. So one of the things that we do, and we do appreciate the help from the colleges and the departments, because we go to them and ask them for copies of the official degree plans. If you are working with students that are juniors and seniors, even freshmen and sophomores, one of the important things is for them to have a working degree plan or a copy of one, and they're following it as closely as possible, and they're aware of the limit. Because one of our priorities is, of course, to make sure that they graduate. And we do not want them to have to be paying this additional fees, because we are seeing that they cannot afford it. And because of that reason, they're not graduating, even though they might just need 12 hours to graduate. There are policies that are in place. We do have an appeal process in place, so if it's close to the end, their last semester, we can submit an appeal and hopefully it will get approved to where they can waive that additional fee. But those are the ones, if you're working with students, please make sure that they're aware that there is a limit to the number of hours that they can complete. Yes.
The student will be informed, right?
Yes, in the packet behind the forms that Marilyn was discussing, answers to the SixCourse drop limit, on the back of that, this is the copy of the letter that is sent by the Office of Registrars, and it is also online.
And do the department chairs get a list of students who are approaching this, or is that communicated to the department in any way?
No, at this point, our office is responsible for working with these particular students. What we do to inform the department chairs, usually when we ask for degree plans, is we send them a list of the students and ask for those degree plans. So we can advise those students or contact those students and try to bring them into our office. Yes.
How about those students that have double majors?
Any student who has a double major, when we're looking at the hours to graduate, are identified by the institution. So if we have a student that's going under a program that's 120 hours, and then they choose to take a double major, the maximum amount of hours we can add to that is 30 hours. So that means that student would start with 150 hours, and then the cap would go above that. Okay? If a student has a minor, depending on the minor, it's usually 18 hours. If they choose to have 2 minors or more, there is a limit of 30 hours as a cap to that. So most we can have is 150 hours for any student. And they have to be actively working towards that second major or those particular minors in order for a change of major to be completed for that particular student.
And those additional hours will not punish the motivated student for
Right.
completing the degree they completed within the cap.
Right. Okay. The other one that we have is the early warning system. And the early warning system was initiated as a retention device targeting the first and second year students enrolled in the core courses. It's really a collaborative effort. I call it a collaborative effort between faculty, the Europe, and our computer center because it's automated. This particular program is initiated by the faculty. So the faculty is the one that will start the process. Once they begin the process, then everything will follow into place. The population that currently that we're working with is any students who are enrolled in the 43-hour core that might be identified as academically at risk or have not declared a major or are unsure of their major. Beginning the fall semester, the early warning system will be available for all undergraduate courses at any level. Okay. One of the advantages, or some of the advantages, is that the students are aware of their progress or that someone's keeping an eye on how they're doing in the courses. For students in core courses, letters are sent to their home address. What we're planning for the junior and senior or non-core courses would be that we will be sending an email to the particular student. Students will be provided with a realistic view of what they need to do in order to complete their courses. They're encouraged to communicate with the faculty member. Errors and problems can be prevented if we know early enough within the semester, and for the fall semester we are hoping to have it before the 12th class day or have it online by the first week of the semester. So if a student is not showing up and they're sent a letter that, excessive absences, they will come and tell us, well, I dropped that course. And it's one of those things, did you officially drop the course? Did you go to registrars or did you go to faculty? Did you have the forms completed? And a lot of times it can be a misconception as far as what is required to officially drop a course. Just to give you an idea of numbers that we're looking at, for the fall fiscal year 06-07, we sent a total of 9,450 letters within that just regular fall and spring term. And these are the students that were identified by faculty as having academic difficulty. Out of those, 40.79% ended up getting grades of C or better. In fall 07, with just for that one term, there was 3,189 letters mailed to students, and out of those, 46.78% ended up getting grades of C or better. The reason that this is significant is that 100% of these students were identified by faculty as being at risk of failing the course. And just the fact that 40% ended up passing the course with a grade of C or better is significant in itself. Now, to give you an idea, as during
Martin, this is faculty generated, right?
Faculty
You
generated.
Go to this website and enter the information.
yes, and I'll show you. On this particular one, it's the same as getting to the assist. Okay, once you get to the assist, you go to the faculty advisor.
Is assist and banner the same thing?
No,
The
this is
self-service of Banner is assist.
If it lets me, then I can show you. This all you would do once you get into the faculty advisor area, you would hit on the early warning system, which is at the bottom. And once you do that, you click on where it says early warning system. And what will happen is that you will be given access to this particular area where it shows the classes that you're teaching for that semester. Once you select the class that you're wanting to teach, you would click on the code, the course ID number, and that will give you a roster of all the students in your particular course. And where it says the no status or the status, it has a drop-down menu. You would just click on that particular area that would affect that particular student. And once you've completed the class, you would be able to just submit at the top the update records,
Yep.
and it will automatically send in information to the computer center. Now, one of the things that is changing for the fall semester, because we're currently working on updating this, is that we will no longer have the multiple deficiencies. Beginning the fall semester, you will be able to select more than one areas, so you can tailor what you're wanting to tell the student. In addition to that, since we're very specific as far as what our codes are, we are also adding a comment box. So if none of the topics or none of the information that's listed there applies to the particular student, you can actually type in a comment, and that will be included in the letter or the email that is mailed to the student. Okay. One of the other changes, we can go to yours.
So that letter comes from your office.
It goes from our office, and on the letter, it basically says to contact your faculty member to discuss this, or to go to one of our staff or an advisor. Okay, so it gives them three options. One of the other things that it has been included in for the fall semester, you want to change it to the services? Right there. Is that now, as an advisement tool, we're making the information available to either faculty advisors or to academic advisors that have access to Banner. Okay, and that's one of the issues I wasn't aware of, that a lot of faculty don't have access to Banner. But on this one, if you'll notice, this particular student has gotten an early warning letter 1 and an early warning letter 2. So on this, we'll automatically tell you that this student has already received 2 letters. To find out what it is, or for what courses and what the problem is, you can go into the comments box, and on there you will notice that there is an early warning 1. It's for an art class, and it says excessive absences. If you go down to the drop box over here, you'll notice the second one was for Math 1334. And you'll notice again, it is for excessive absences or tardies. So that gives you an idea of what's going on with this student when you're actually doing academic advisement. I was made aware yesterday, I think, that some faculty do not have access to Banner. So one of the other options is if the department chooses to have their caseload identified. If you're an advisor within the college or your particular program, and you have a list of students, say A through D of, within this particular major, that information can be, you can be identified as their academic advisor. And one of the capabilities of this program is that emails can be sent to you so that you would be able to keep track of the students in your caseload and be able to address this type of issues with students, because if they're already missing 2 classes, what's going on? Are they going to have to drop out from that semester, or are they going to have to withdraw? What are the issues that are behind the fact that it's already in 2 classes that they have been identified?
Is this Banner reports? Is that that?
No, this is on just the banner screens, the detail and the comments box. I'm sure we can get this, Thelma, as a reports area, that reports can be generated based on this information. I'm sure Thelma can figure something out for us. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. And one of the things to keep in mind with early warning systems, since it is faculty-led, and it's not mandatory, it will be up to the faculty members to do that. The more faculty members that end up utilizing this service or this system, the better it is, or the better advisement we can provide to the students. So we do encourage faculty to use it as much as possible. All right, thank you.
Okay, this concludes the session that we have for today. I encourage you, if you know of other people that this would be helpful information, please let them know that we also have a session this afternoon and then also 2 more tomorrow. In your packet, you'll notice at the very back also there is resource contact information that has everyone's contact information. If you do have questions regarding academic policies and procedures, please don't be afraid to, I'm at the top of the list. You can give me a call. You can give the Office of the Registrar, whoever's in charge with the different information. And if we don't have the information, we'll be able to find out the information for you. So thank you for coming today, and I hope this was very informative for you.